All right, so we are live. So welcome to Intuitive You on Oneness Talk Radio. We are so happy you are here. And this morning I have a special guest. Now, this woman I haven't seen actually for 10 years, and I got to talk to her a couple of weeks ago. And it's just amazing how intuitive connections hold so strong. And so as soon as we got on the phone, it was like I'd seen her yesterday. And she's actually had this amazing transformation, just really becoming somebody just brand new, almost like changing her name, her company, everything that she's doing. And I just feel just really inspired by her ability to step into her light and say yes to the universe. And so today's show is about saying yes to the universe and staying in alignment with who you really are as that light being, as that intuitive connection grows stronger and stronger. And we're also going to dive into intuitive wisdom around money. So Stara, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abby. It's so exciting to be here and connect with you again after all of these years and just share what's shifted for both of us and how we just keep saying yes and seeing what happens.
Absolutely. I love it. So, Stara, what is it that really helped you connect to your intuition and just keep saying yes to following it?
That's an amazing question, and I will try to answer it quickly. It was as if about 30 years old, different things just started coming into my path, and I started to notice synchronicities. And for me, that has really been my guidance that I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm. And so something would happen, and let's say it was a book that someone recommended, and then two other people would recommend that book, and I would take that as a message directly from the universe that I'm supposed to drop everything else that I'm doing and read that book right now. Mm-hmm. And then I would meet someone who would become an incredible teacher, mentor, or guide. And someone else would say, oh my gosh, I just worked with this person. So as I started to really pay attention to the synchronicities and tell the stories of the synchronicities, it felt like this wheel that just kept speeding up. And I just kept saying yes to those things that felt in alignment. And then my whole life has just completely shifted over the last 10 years. And it's been incredible just to look back and see all of the things that I had to say yes to, even some things that were very unconventional, to end up right where I am right now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's like the synchronicities start to present themselves and then that intuitive knowing to be able to say yes. So I'm curious what the discernment was for you to be able to say yes, right? Because I think often like we can feel fear and be like, like maybe I know I should, but I'm kind of afraid. So what was that in you that was able to have that courage and that trust in yourself to follow your intuition?
Well, the intuitive knowing is not something that I was raised believing in. I was raised in religion, and in the way that I grew up, the answers were always outside of me. So starting to listen to that internal voice was a little bit scary. Because it didn't feel like I knew. It was someone else outside of me knows, or I need to ask permission, or I need to pray, and someone else needs to tell me. Mm-hmm. And so as I started to notice the synchronicity, I would get this feeling in my body, and my body would just be like, and I would just be like, I think I know. I think I'm on the right track. And I started to be able to trust it. So it was little baby steps at first. And now when that intuitive message comes through, it's literally just, I get like a full body yes. And I know that I'm on the right track. Even if it's something crazy like the intuitive message from the universe saying, sell your house, move into a truck with your partner, and drive around the world for the next 2 years while I put together the most incredible community for an intentional space where you want to live. And just being like, okay.
Right.
Yes.
I get it. I love what you said about a full body yes. And so I think that is, the key is to really tune into your body, which really is like your subconscious mind. And then your higher self really is your intuition, right? It's that soul and body part of you. So when you're connected to your whole body and you're feeling a yes, a moving towards something, that's the right direction. By the same token, if you're getting a no, like, whoa, like literally you'll feel your body like being pulled away. And so there's just such a clear, it's like a compass, like your body is the compass. And so you want to just move towards those yeses. And it's so funny. One of my dear intuitive friends years ago said something like, God, it probably was 10 years ago too. And she's like, Abby, you know, your conscious mind is like this big, right? It's like literally that part of your body, like 20% of your body. And your full body is like 80% of you. So if you trust your full body as your guide rather than just your thoughts of your conscious mind, you can, you know, just move into alignment, and it creates so much better and faster. So I just think about you being like, hey, okay, you know, my guidance is to do this. And your conscious mind might be like, what are you doing? But your whole body, your intuition is like, yes, this feels right. And so I can trust the safety of that and my body to tell me.
Yeah, and another great tool to use as you're starting to get used to your yes and your no is heavy and light. So does it feel heavy? Does it feel light? And a lot of times we can tune into that even easier because our mind can also kind of play in that space. It's like when you're tuning into something, does your mind speed up and start feeling like it has to try and solve all of these problems? That's probably a heavy, which is probably a no. If it feels light, then the mind doesn't feel like it has to step on board as much. And so we can start to attune that way as well.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Man, I think that there's a little feedback, a little delay in your response. Sorry, guys. This new technology is still new for us all. So, Stara, is there anything else that you want to share about just tuning in, listening to your intuition, and how that journey has been for you?
Yeah, I would love to share. You know, I think each one of us is completely a different soul, obviously, and we have our own way of doing things. And so often, if you grew up in sort of a structure that says this is the right way to do it, we can be hyper focused on, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? And when we can let go of that good, bad, right, wrong perspective that has to judge everything, and we can just begin to allow ourselves to play and open up and explore, and you know, maybe it's in alignment and maybe we go down a path and it's like, yeah, that wasn't really in alignment, but it's not that I did something bad or something wrong. It starts to lighten things up a little bit. And as we can really step into just that exploration and that play, we can create a path that really works for us. So what I often think of as people are transitioning more into trusting their intuition, maybe more spiritual exploration, there's things like, well, you should be grounding and you should be meditating and you should be doing this and you should be doing this. And those are kind of, we look for this structure because we're not taught that it can be completely different for every single being. Right. So my play with the universe and with spirit is very different than sitting silently on a meditation pillow. Although I do that sometimes, mine feels a lot more dynamic, like a conversation that I'm having as I'm tuning into that intuition. So I think the big thing I would love to impart to everyone that's listening is that you don't have to do it like everybody else is doing it. And you really can't do it wrong, and you can't screw it up, and there's nobody there waiting to judge you. And it's really just your soul's exploration and unfolding. And that's where all of the thrill can come in, because the more synchronicity and the more yeses and the more exploration, the more in awe you become of life and everything that's happening around you and the people that you're meeting. And that's truly what I believe we're all here to experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know for me, I don't know if I ever told you, but I left a scholarship in college and said, no, I'm going to go start my own thing. So if I was to think, oh, let me compare myself to everybody else and what they're doing and what I should do, I never would have done that, right? So it's like to really honor what your intuition is telling you and trust it, you know? And yeah, the synchronicities and the miracles like just continue to unfold. So it really is, it's almost like a flower blossoming, right? Like your heart opening and like you just kind of discovering like what your soul is and just its beauty and essence. And really to connect with the energy. So essence just meaning energy. So what is so almost like important and profound about you and your heart? And this is for everybody listening, like the essence of your soul, like what makes you beautiful? Like, do you just love to love? Do you love to laugh? You know, like what is that energy that's so compelling for other people to want to be around and for you to want to be around your own presence, right? Because that is the energy of you. And as you grow that, it's the gift of you. How can you express that? Like, how can you monetize it if you choose? Like, how can you really share it? So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Star, but I love doing this work because of that, right? It's like supporting the full expression of the soul.
Yeah, and as you're in that expression, you can also trust your desires. I find so many people that have this like deep soul desire to connect with an intimate love, and they're looking for that person, or they have a deep soul desire to make an impact in a specific area. And I always like to remind people that if you have that desire, you could not have that desire if it was not intended for you to be able to accomplish it. It just wouldn't even be in your awareness.
Yeah.
And so because it's in your awareness, that means that it's something that's possible for you. It's like your spirit is giving you, your higher self is giving you this desire to show you it is possible as you work in alignment with the universe to actually be able to bring that to fruition. Otherwise, you wouldn't even want it.
Yep, absolutely. And it goes back to the energy, right? So I love what you said. Loving the people joining in the chat too. So it's like, I remember my first retreat to Thailand. I literally like wrote a retreat journal for everybody saying like, if you have the dream, it is there for you, right? Because that energy is active in you. And then it's just a matter of coming into alignment with it. So whatever your dream is, you're working with yourself and the universe is working with you as one, right? To mirror back to you that like magnetic force of light. And the foundation is always going to be love. So I think it's, loving ourselves, moving through the blocks and resistance to actually being open to receive it. And I love what you said about non-judgment, that you don't really need that. Like that's part of the intuitive success coaching process is non-judgment, unconditional love. Because when you're in that place, everything just levels, everything just grounds. And it's like, okay, let's build from here. What's true? And so it's like, I think about, like Michael Jordan or something like, I want to be the most famous basketball player. Like I personally don't. Like I just want to have a family with my 3 kids, right? Like that's my desire. So my desire is going to be different than yours or anybody's. So your desire is perfect for you. And you absolutely have the tools and resources to accomplish it and live it. I just love that. Yeah. So beautiful.
Absolutely.
So beautiful. So tell me about your trip. So you guys are planning this adventure. I know you're in another state other than California right now. Where are you right now?
So I'm in Colorado. I moved here almost 7 years ago. And even just leaving California and coming here, I was saying yes to a lot of really crazy things. I was 30 years old. I married a man 13 years my senior from the company that we were both working in, and I became a stepmom to 4 children. Oh, wow. And they were all teenagers. They were 8 to 15. And so that was like the first big, like, yes, this sounds crazy, but I saw the picture of his kids and I knew I was supposed to be in their life in some way. We've since decided to consciously uncouple, although we still live in the same house and have a very unconventional life. But we just recently sold our house, and my partner, who Andre, my previous partner, introduced me to, he and I were really moved to move into a truck with our dog Meatball and spend the next 2 years playing and connecting more deeply to nature. And we have felt really called to get out of the 9 to 5, work all the time, be in front of your computer rhythm. And we're deeply trusting that financially we're going to be taken care of, because we're not going to be working all the time like we were previously, and that we're being called to connect to what those cycles and rhythms of the earth really are and how we can be aligned to that, and then how can we guide others to have that more deep connection. So that's what this next 2 years of exploration is going to be. We're going to do 4 months around the United States, maybe longer, and then head into Mexico. And we just decided we don't want to be in the snow anymore. So we're going to go live at the beach, see what happens.
Oh, well, come and visit. So cool. So it actually makes me want to tap a little bit into, where we first met, which was Wine, Women, and Wealth with our friend Denise Ahrens, who started that. And I feel like there's just a piece about money and intuition that I'd love to touch on that I think is so important. Starting my practice when I was 19, I really used the energy of love as a way to connect, of course, with people, because that was my mission. And I noticed how money would follow it. It wasn't reaching out. It genuinely was caring about people and noticing how the money follows. So I just think for anybody who's thinking about, finding a way to monetize your gifts if you're not already, that if you truly move into your heart and your purpose, and like Stara said, that heart's desire, knowing that you have the ability to fulfill it, my belief and experience is the money will follow. The money will support that. And you don't really have to have fear, right? And I guess I also had a very strong belief that as long as I was serving, I would be supported. So I think when you have that heart of service and love, it's returned to you. So I'm curious, because I know you spent at least 10 years in the financial field, what you have seen and your thoughts about that, and just any, advice, guidance that you have for our listeners.
Yeah, so I landed in the financial industry after being a contractor. And I was building and remodeling houses, and 2008 happened, and I lost a whole bunch of money in my 401k. And I thought to myself at 23 years old, there's got to be a better way. And I ended up finding the company that I've been working with my former partner. We're still business partners, and we've been doing that for 10 years. And we work with safe financial investments, but more importantly, we work with helping people discover and connect to the mindset around money. And that's the piece that, if you believe that money is scarce and it's a limited resource, everything in your life is going to reflect that back to you. But if you can shift that perspective and believe that money is simply energy, it's a current, it's a currency, and that as you are giving value, putting your energy out into the world, that energy has to come back to you in return. And that creates a value exchange. So the more that you're aligned and the more freely and openly your energy and your love is being poured out into the world through your passion that you're looking to monetize, that's how the money's able to turn around and make its way back to you. Mm-hmm. And I love to look at this in like the tiny exchanges. So when I decide to spend money on something, doesn't matter what it is, if you go to the grocery store and you buy something, you can think about all of the wonderful beings that had to do something in order to get that piece of fruit or, yogurt or whatever you're buying to the store in order for you to be able to buy it. And you can joyfully spend that money in exchange and say, I worked for this money, I output my energy, and now I'm going to honor all of the people who output their energy and create this exchange. Mm-hmm. And as that starts to happen, it creates a completely different type of flow with money where you're not worried about spending, because you're spending in honor of all of the beings that helped to bring that piece to you. Mm-hmm. And if you're buying something from an artist, even if it's more than you would want to spend necessarily, it's like, wow, I'm taking this money that I've earned from me outputting my energy, and I'm honoring you with it. And then you buy their piece of art, and then you get to keep it in your home, and it gets to bring you joy for years and years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing that comes to mind, Stara, is the value you're putting out. So when you're helping somebody, so a little different spin in the sense that, I guess I can just use me as an example, right? Like the value of helping somebody connect to their intuition and create a life they love is like invaluable. Mm-hmm. So when you realize the value, and so everybody has a different gift, right? It might be a variation of what I just said. It might be something different, but that has tremendous priceless value. So when you understand your value and your ability to then help somebody, you're like one of those people that Stara was talking about in the store, like all your heart and soul is put into that, right? And so then people feel that value and want it. And again, it's from that place of love. Like when it's truly coming from the foundation of your heart and love, it's like, it is kind of like an offering, it's just like, here, and if this serves you, here's a donation almost, right? Almost like the money almost becomes a service exchange of love, and it's like, we do donations for a nonprofit, but I do actually like charge the fees, but it almost feels like that. It's almost like a donation of exchange, just kind of like, thank you and thank you. Mm-hmm. And so I just invite everybody to tap into and feel your own innate value, which is obviously priceless, your value that you bring to people through your gifts, and how you want to share that. which in essence is service, I believe. So yeah, anything else you want to add to that, love?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who are maybe in jobs that they don't really love, but there are jobs that pay the bills. And so a lot of times this conversation could feel like, yeah, well, I have to go to an office and I sit there from 9 to 5 and it doesn't really feel that exciting. And so if that's what you're choosing, and maybe that creates a space for you to be able to have the money to do spiritual exploration or dive into your intuition, even if you're not going to turn it into a business, you can bring that love and energy and service into every single thing that you're doing when you're earning that money, and just begin to watch that energy flow as your energy shifts. Maybe you get a raise, maybe you have people that start being nicer to you on the phone, whatever it is, you're bringing value because your energy and your presence and your light is there. So even if you're in a place where you're like, yeah, this isn't really like what I would love to be doing for the rest of my life, but you can still honor your light while you're there and share that love and be in service and see how you can shine, and then see how that gets reflected back to you.
I love that. Okay, so what comes through is last episode we talked to Emily Boyer from the Common Goods Network, and we actually did a three-way with the orphanage in Ecuador. And so she talked about your passion project. And obviously my passion project is building the school there in addition to all this work. And so I guess as you're talking, I'm thinking about anybody, whether you're sitting in a 9 to 5 or you have your own company and you want to grow it. What's your passion project? What is moving you forward into that greater expression of love? And I have had so many clients who have been in that position where they're in a really awesome, stable job, but they're like, hey man, the energy around here is driving me nuts. I know I want to do something more. And so we actually used their current job as like an asset, right? Like we learned how to create energy boundaries, right? So they could feel their light and also almost use it as like a playground. I just remember saying to one of my clients, like, imagine you're kind of like playing at school, and it's like, how do you interact with everybody energetically? So you can learn things at your current job that makes you stronger as you build your intuition, and then you can fully step into, actually, a lot of people do get raises. I mean, like double, triple, quadruple their income. It's ridiculous when they start doing this work, and then eventually do leave, in my experience, and do their own thing, right? Like they start, I mean, I'm thinking this one client who I think she got, I know it was a huge raise, and then eventually she started her own company. So it's just kind of like you can use that current job to catapult you as you discover your own intuition and your ability to really like become self-realized, and actualize your dream. So I love that.
It's like a testing ground almost. Like, okay, I'm going to see if this stuff really works. And then it starts working, and then you start trusting it more. And then you feel like you have the confidence, if you're called, to step out of that job and create your own thing. Yeah. And you can do it in these baby steps where, like I was saying with my story, first it was books. And I would just say yes, and I would read it, and I would say, oh my gosh, that was exactly the message that I needed. And then it was something else, and then it was something else. And now it's like I feel the intuition to sell everything and move into a truck. And it's a full yes with no questions asked, and a deep trust and an excitement for what's going to be coming, because I've said yes to all of the tiny things. And I feel I've built my trust with the universe, that I know that she has my back.
Yeah.
And I'm held.
Totally. And again, I'm literally feeling my body pulled towards this conversation and towards you, Star, like, feel your body move you. So as she's talking about saying yes, feel how your body's literally moving you, leaning in towards your yeses. And I knew I was going to share this story, so I'm so excited to be able to share it. So I think it was last week, I had a client come over, and she talked about how she went to the other side twice. So she actually physically died and came back. But she said when she was on the other side, everything was pure light, pure oneness. And she actually realized that she was God, right? That everything was God. So everything that you think is outside of you is actually you. So she's like, there's no mistakes, which makes sense. Like, but there's no judgment. There's just love. And there's just experience, like exactly what you were talking about at the beginning. And so then to master, oh, what do I want? What is my heart, my body, my intuition calling me to do? Because I will be supported in it.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that disconnects me from that love is simply probably a belief, right? Or a thought form that can be released. So I think, if we could all see that greater perspective to know that we are that light, we are that love, we are held in it. So it's like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like life is an experiment. You're like, well, that worked or that didn't, right? You're kind of like, let's just keep moving into alignment with what worked, Like, I make light of it, but it's like I've made, quote unquote mistakes or been like, oh, well, that wasn't quite what I thought. Okay. And then realign,
Yeah.
keep saying yes, keep saying yes to what feels good. So yeah, what else were you going to say?
I forgot.
Yeah, that's okay. We can feel them coming in, right? The different thoughts.
Yeah, totally.
And anybody that wants to ask a question in the chat, feel free. I don't think we're going to do call in today, but if you want to type your question, Stara and I would be happy to answer you. So let's see. I guess what's coming through, Stara, is there any advice or guidance you have about removing those blocks, like where we might ever just feel like, man, like just say, for instance, somebody's like, hey, like my heart's desire is this and I can feel it, but like there's still some resistance and I don't even understand why. How can we help kind of ease that and just open up to not only the possibility, but like I said earlier, the actualization of that dream being realized?
It's beautiful. The work that I do with stellar embodiment is really about helping people tune into those blocks. And a lot of times they come up as a block or a pain in the body. And trusting the body's wisdom. And what I have to do is I get quite strong visuals and psychic intuition and that sort of thing. So I can actually work with someone in a session and find that point in their body. And they're like, man, my back's been bothering me for months. And they've got a story about how, I picked this thing up and my back started hurting. And it hasn't stopped hurting. And I always tell people that the body's actual number one program is health. So if your body's hanging on to something, it's because it's got a message for you. And if you have an emotion or something, a story that keeps repeating or a block that keeps repeating, there's a message there. So we can actually speak to the block or speak to the pain in the body and learn what it wants to share. I don't feel safe. I'm afraid. The last time that I did this, I got yelled at by my mom when I was 3 years old. Or if you believe in past lives, I had a previous life where I was completely aligned with my intuition and something terrible happened. And so those blocks and those pains are here for a reason. They're a doorway to the wisdom of your soul. And if we can go to the doorway and we can listen to the message, it's incredible how quickly they clear out of the way.
Oh my God. I love what you just said. That's so beautiful. Totally similar to what I do, but I love how it's just truth, right? And it's like, it's so clear. And everybody, I invite you to do that now. Go into the area in your physical body, your emotional bodies, your mental body, where you feel a blockage. And like you start, like I see energy, right? So you see it, so we can see it for you. But right now, look at it for yourself and ask it like you were to ask a friend, what is the message? Right? Total parts integration. What is the message you have for me?
And then you're going to be blown away because it's actually going to answer you. You're going to be like, wait, where did that come from?
It's not mysterious.
Was that real? And then you try it again and it's another voice. And you can trust it because it's the stuff you would never say.
Right.
You're like, what? Crazy.
Totally. And it's all you, right? Mm-hmm. Ironically, it's all you. Totally. And I love that you said, like, it's almost like protecting you, because I know for myself, that's where the area I would judge myself. I'd be like, oh, well, I shouldn't feel the fear. Well, it was actually giving me a message. Like, that's probably not a good idea for you. So don't just keep pushing yourself. So it's kind of like, I just think having that grace, and I notice even as I say that, like my gut kind of softens. So as you all ask that part of you, what's the message? Notice how you can soften into yourself and actually feel safe with yourself and trust yourself. Because then that flow, when all the chakras are balanced, it's like you're just this divine channel of light. Like your soul is just coming through you. And I'll give you the activation later for everybody to access, but it's like, it's your expression. So keep listening and seeing, are there any other spots in your field where you feel like, like I would see like green mucky energy or like black energy or something, like, what is that? Right. And myself or a client or friend or whatever. And it's like, you kind of see it. And like you said, you get the message and you transform it. So then it can flow naturally. And kind of resolve.
Yeah, I mean, and we want to honor that. We all have, I get to do a lot of work with inner child and integrating, and a lot of the sessions that I do somehow bring something from childhood and something from a past life and something from current. And it's like this mandala that our soul is showing us, like, this is a repeating pattern that I want you to see that's ready to clear. But when we're little, most of our parents are not totally attuned to us. They're doing the best that they can, but they have their own stuff because their parents had their own stuff and their parents had their own stuff. And so we develop what are called protectors and managers. And basically all of the blocks come out of our protectors and managers, where most of us had to act like little adults. And so that child part of us is still having to act like a little adult. We never learned how to play, and they're often very hard on us, and they're the ones that are judging. And yes, it's all us. But if we want to kind of like look at this as a separate part, we have a protector who's doing, in my case, her very best job to keep me safe, because she doesn't want me to hurt the way I hurt when I was little. And so when I can feel her in my body, and in my case, one of my protectors that's very strong lives on the back of my heart chakra. And so oftentimes when I'm not fully aligned, this pain will flare back up, and it just feels like, I like to think of the chakras as like two spinning discs on the front and the back. And usually the front of the chakra is pretty open. And, because that's how we're expressing out. All of our back chakras are all about trusting the universe and trusting others. So how many of us have been stabbed in the back at some point, this life or another? And so that chakra starts to say, I don't really trust you. I don't really trust anybody else. And it gets stuck. And so when the back of my heart, which is my protector, starts giving me a hard time, I can go there and say, what am I not seeing? What am I not listening to? What are you trying to protect me from? And I can have a conversation with her and help her to be able to release the control. In my case, my partner and I call her the caffeinated monkey. And my protector is really good at getting stuff done. Gotta do it, gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do. So when I find myself in this like frenetic energy of trying to get everything done all by myself with no help, I know my protector's running the show. And that means that the little innocent, beautiful one inside is not getting to shine her light, because she's getting sold over by the caffeinated monkey. And so however we can start to create this relationship with all of these different parts, we can know who's talking. And then we can begin to hear the true inner voice and be able to use that to converse with the protectors and the managers, and actually start to open and unfold into a much deeper possibility of trusting this intuition, because we're not letting our blocks and our fears and our protectors and our managers run the show anymore.
Man, I love that. It just feels, again, I just feel my body softening, and just a reminder, just kind of highlighting what you said, to have the conversation with that protector, manager, whatever that part of you is. So there's a dialogue. I know for me, I just used to like push that part away, right? Just be like, no. And then it like comes out and you're like, whoa, that was pretty overprotective, but I often think about like working with kids, right? As like, I would ask them, what do you need? So it's like with parts of us, like, okay, protector part, like, what is it you need to feel safe? What is it you need to be loved, right? So there's this dialogue where you can then come into harmony with yourself and then others, right? Because you're in alignment with you. So beautifully said. Yeah,
I feel like that's a place where we can spend, it's such a valuable place to spend our time. Because as all of those parts get to be part of the conversation, they don't feel excluded anymore, and then they can stop pitching a fit, which often includes back pain, stomach pain, digestion issues, whatever it is. And as all of that begins to shift, we come more directly in contact with that internal light that we're all here to bring to the party.
Yeah.
And if we could have a party where all of us are bringing that light instead of all of the protectors, that can start to build beautiful circles and communities that are connecting in that way, that are trusting their intuition, that are collaborating. And that's where the magic is able to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a whole namaste thing, actually, which is in our chat right now. Is like, I greet the light that's in you that's also in me, right? Like illuminating that truth. So beautiful. I love it. So cool. So cool. Wow. Well, is there anything else you want to share? I just see the words, it's all good.
You know? Yeah, it is. I mean, anything that is distorted, we can bring the light to it to help it see its own inner radiance. I mean, I have a lot of people that I talk to that bring up like, well, there's so much suffering and pain in the world. Like, how do you explain that? And the way that I explain it is, the further we move away from our divinity and the more we believe that the answers are outside of ourselves, the more pain comes into our life. And the more we try and get away from the pain, and that's where distortion is created. That's where people hurt other people and create pain in the world and hurt the earth, because they're separated from divinity. As we come back into oneness with the truth of the divine inside of ourselves through building and growing our intuition, we start to remove those distortions. And as those distortions clear, we no longer have to live through those filters anymore. And we can see the light in other people. And as we can see the light in other people, that lets them begin to see it themselves. And that's the beauty of conscious relating, and how we can actually connect with each other and see that light maybe when they can't see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, I love that. So profound. Just so beautiful. I just invite everybody to take a moment to feel the divinity, the light within you, and just feel the oneness of our interconnectedness, your interconnectedness to all parts of yourself and to all of life.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing that in. A relaxation, like it's just almost like a melting, Yeah.
What if we gave that to ourselves every day? Woke up for 5 minutes and just remembered the divinity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think it is like a relaxation with ourselves, like not having so much pressure. I know for me, there's always these like next goals and more people I need to reach, everything I have in my head. What about just a softening? And I thought, what if it's already done? I was on the beach the other day and I was like, hey, Abby, what if it was just already done? Like everything you already wanted is done, because you realize as you live your life, it's like you start living your dreams. You're like, oh, wow, I dreamed this once and now I'm living it. Like it does happen. So your next dream, what if you just like relaxed into, well, I already know it's done and it's coming because I'm in alignment with it and I'm choosing it. So, yeah, I just feel like it can create some deeper peace of trusting the process.
And to me, what comes up is the conversation that I'm starting to hear more and more with the difference between doing and being. And so kind of looking at your day, looking at your week, looking at your life, how much being are you allowing yourself to be, and how much doing are you forcing yourself to do? And if we're in the doing constantly, which is just getting stuff done, that in my case, the caffeinated monkey, doing, checking things off the list.
Right.
That's where I find myself fall out of alignment.
Right.
I start to lose sight of the light because I'm so much more focused on what needs to get done. So if I can be in that softening, and for me, it's a slowing way down, like way past the level of comfort. It is really uncomfortable for me to slow way down.
Yeah.
Because when I was little, you had to always be doing something productive. So it was like, do your homework, and then get the extra credit and do the extra credit, and then clean your room, and then organize your room, and then do your chores, and then eat dinner, and then read a book, and then. So the idea of just slowing all the way down and doing nothing, like for a lot of us, that feels lazy. It feels irresponsible. It feels like something that we're not supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be doing something else. And so if we can begin to allow our systems to calibrate and see what it feels like, what would it be like if I softened even more all of those hard edges of the protectors? And what would it be like if I slowed way down to literally doing nothing and just allowing myself to be, and then bring in that experience of that accessing and remembering the divinity within? That is what really builds that alignment. But it's from this like super slow, present in the now moment energy of simply being and trusting that that's enough.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like being the light that is your divinity, right? Being
yeah, there's nothing you need to do to be that. You already are.
Right. I love that. Yeah, totally. And yeah, softening those other thoughts. Or blockages, having those dialogues, so they can just have peace, peace, be still, that peace, be still and know that I'm God. It's like that, just like, let it settle. Very cool. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share? A way for people to contact you if they want to book sessions? It sounds like you're going to be traveling. So is there a way they can reach out maybe via phone or email? I'm not sure how you want people to contact you.
Yeah, so I have everything on my website. It's stellarembodiment.com. And I have some exciting stuff over there. I work a lot with light language. And so we have a monthly play group that I host. I also carve light language into selenite. You can see one of my pieces right there. So that's some of my art. My Etsy store is on the website, as well as an online booking tool that will be shifting to a text-based booking tool once I'm on the road, so that I can work around all of the beautiful places I'm going to be seeing. But I would love to connect with anyone who's looking to access more of that wisdom, maybe through pain or through blocks, and use those as doorways to understand how we can go out into your higher self and download all of your soul's wisdom from all of your incarnations, and actually bring that into your body now, so that you can live from that deep wisdom in this life. Because that's why we have all of those experiences, is to bring everything home and be able to play with it all in one place, like a big giant toy box.
Yeah, it's just fascinating you say that, because like I was telling you, that same client that told me about going to the other side and coming back, I was like, what's the point of pain? I was like, seems like kind of ridiculous to have that. And she's like, well, pain is like one of your greatest teachers. And I'm like, really? So I think it's fascinating that you're saying that it's like a doorway to wisdom. Like, what is it there to teach you? Like talking about the pain, like you can download, sounds like from this life and past lifetimes, but to use it as a teacher, which to me is still a little uncomfortable, but I'm just noticing how the universe continues to put that in my path of like, let it be a teacher. I was like, okay, that's different, but I do think that there must be clearly some wisdom there, because it keeps coming up, right? If everything's a teacher, what does pain have to tell you? And what's the wisdom that can be imparted? Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, what I see is the pain is really just enough to get our attention, because the reality is we're going to pay more attention to pain than we are to pleasure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how we're wired for some reason. So if my back's really, really hurting, I will start seeking.
Right.
And when I will start trying to find, I know so many people who have found acupuncture, which led them to the beginning of spirituality because their back was hurting.
Yeah.
And the clients that I work with, the back hurts because something happened in a past life to that part of the body. And when we can go into that life, we don't need to go in and see the pain. We need to go in and see the wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes we don't even know where to look for the wisdom. So we use the pain, we go through the pain, and then we find, like, what did my soul actually know in that life?
Right.
And then let's bring that back. And then the pain can just go away. Because we don't really need to hurt anymore, because we're listening.
Right. And so just to like reiterate what you're saying, so it's like, here's the pain, it's the messenger, and you as your divine self, fully embodied light, intuitive self, can look at it and say, okay, what's the message? Now let me transform and heal that so I actually do not have to feel pain. So
Exactly.
it's like the remembrance of your soul, hence wisdom. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I would love to give, there's something in the Bible that's said that the I am presence of God or spirit. And I was just working with an intuitive friend of mine who did a beautiful session for me. And she changes it to, the saying was, I am that I am. And she likes to say, divine I am that divine I am. And so I want to give that to everyone as a mantra to work with when you're in that slow and soft space, to just say, divine I am that divine I am. And just allow that to rush through your body and feel the truth of that in all of your cells.
I love that. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if anybody's seen that movie Avatar, but when everybody comes together and they're like around that circle of life or tree of life, and like feeling that unity, oneness. So, wow. Well, I feel pretty much complete for today. Is there anything else that you want to share before we log off today, Stara?
That was all. It's such a beautiful experience to be able to share these conversations and to welcome as many souls back to their remembrance as possible, as we're all remembering and supporting others to remember. Just know that as your light is shining, others see that.
Yeah.
And they're attracted to that. And then that encourages them to shine their light. And it begins to shed these layers of seemingly necessary competition. We can just let all of that go and be in collaboration and have joy in others shining their lights, and then more lights, and then more lights, and then more lights, and then more lights. And for those that maybe aren't ready yet to shine their light, that's okay. But you keep shining your light, because that's how your tribe finds you. The brighter you shine, the sooner, faster, quicker the tribe comes back together. And that's what really fills your heart, is shining your light with others that are doing the same.
Wow. I love that. And this will be posted as a recording on Oneness Talk Radio under Intuitive You. So you can go back and watch this video to do the dialogue, with different parts of you like we talked about. You can also go to www.lifeforceconnection.com and download the free meditation. So it's basically an intuitive meditation for living your best life, and it takes you through each of your chakras. So you can experience, embody, and feel what that is to just truly become that. And like Stara said, as your light shines and becomes brighter and brighter, we all get to benefit from it. So we're just so grateful for you showing up, and we will see you next week. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.